You've likely heard about the Roth IRA. It saves you money when you invest by giving you special tax advantages. But did you know that there's actually another form of an IRA? It's called a traditional IRA, and this video is going to explain everything you need to know about both if you make sure to watch it all the way through to the end. So what even are Roth and traditional IRAs? How will they help you save money? Which one should you choose? Make sure to save that like button by clicking it so that the YouTube algorithm will choose this video. While you're down there, please also subscribe and ring the bell if you would like to be notified when new videos come out every Friday. They'll help you live a life you love through personal finance, investing, and self-improvement. Hi, I'm Evan, and let's start by talking about tax-advantaged accounts. If you're already watching content similar to mine, you likely already know about the 401k and the Roth IRA. These are retirement accounts which are going to save you a bunch of money by giving you special tax advantages on your investments. Normally, when you'd sell an investment, you'd incur what's called a capital gains tax. This is a tax on the increase of the value of your investment from when you bought it to when you sold it. Tax-advantaged accounts allow you to bypass capital gains taxes by letting your investments grow tax-free. Roth IRA and 401ks are the most popular kinds of tax-advantaged accounts. The primary difference is that you invest pre-tax money with your 401k and invest your after-tax income with the Roth IRA. Then you can withdraw your gains tax-free after a certain age with the Roth IRA, or you will pay income taxes on your 401k distribution when you go to withdraw that money. The traditional IRA works very similarly to the 401k in that it uses tax deferral. That's the fancy term for investing pre-tax money for which you're going to have to pay taxes on later when you go to withdraw it. The traditional advice that you're going to hear is that you should use a traditional IRA if you think you are going to be in a lower tax bracket in retirement than you are now. So then you should use a Roth IRA if you think you're going to be in a higher tax bracket in retirement than you currently are. This is a big generalization, as I will explain throughout the video. But first, let's talk about what an IRA even is and why you should have one. IRAs are individual retirement accounts that give you special tax benefits, also called the tax advantage, to incentivize and encourage you to save up for retirement. For both the Roth and the traditional IRA, you can contribute up to $6,000 toward your account per year, assuming that you have earned income. Earned income just means any money that you make in an official capacity, specifically income that you would have to pay your taxes on. If you're 50 or older, you can also contribute an extra $1,000, now up to a total of $7,000 per year, as a catch-up contribution. With the Roth IRA, there are no restrictions as to who can have one. So long as you're over 18 and you have earned income, you can make a Roth IRA and contribute to it. However, there are restrictions as to who can have a traditional IRA. Based on figures from 2021, if you have an income of $125,000 and file your taxes single, then you can't have the traditional IRA. Similarly, if you're married and filing jointly, you and your spouse's income cannot exceed $198,000. Now, Congress has looked at limiting some people's access to the Roth IRA, but again, at least for now, pretty much anyone can have one. Once your money is contributed to and invested in your IRA account, its earnings will grow completely tax-free with the Roth and tax-deferred with the traditional. So what else happens when you go to withdraw the money? Well, in both cases, you need to be at least age 59 and a half before you can withdraw your investment gains completely tax and penalty-free. With the Roth IRA, you can withdraw money up to the amount that you have contributed to the account at any time without paying a penalty or any taxes. This is because since you are contributing your post-tax money into the account, your contributions have already been taxed. So your money isn't just taxed again just because you want it back. Now, for your investment earnings or your investment gains, you must meet the age 59 and a half requirement and have had your account for at least 5 years with the Roth IRA before you're able to withdraw them. For both types of IRAs, there are exceptions to the age rule. For the Roth IRA, add on the 5-year rule on top of the following conditions. Exceptions include if you are spending the withdrawn earnings on qualified educational expenses, up to $10,000 towards some first home purchases, some medical expenses, or other long-term unemployment expenses. The rules also go away for your family in the case of a permanent disability or you passing away. If you need to withdraw your money early for anything other than these exceptions, you'll be paying a 10% penalty, plus the money is most likely going to be taxed as ordinary income, assuming it's coming out of your Roth IRA. The same is true for the traditional IRAs, except that those withdrawals are definitely going to be taxed as income. Another benefit of the Roth IRA is that it has no required minimum distribution. This means that there is no age by which you have to start taking out your money from your account. For the traditional version, there is going to be a minimum withdrawal you need to make every year starting at age 72. The primary difference, as we've talked about, between the Roth IRA and the traditional one is that the traditional one uses your pre-tax money. When you withdraw that money for any reason, it's going to get taxed as regular income. You're able to spend your investment gains early on the same qualified expenses as the Roth, but you're going to be paying the taxes on that. The only difference is that your account doesn't need to be at least 5 years old. Now, before we get into deciding whether you should choose the Roth or the traditional, let's talk about why you should definitely have an IRA. First, it may be the only tax-advantaged account that you have access to. Certain jobs and employers may not offer a 401k. I know that mine doesn't. You may not have a high-deductible health insurance plan, which means that you can't have a health savings account. So if either IRA is your only tax-advantaged option, then you need to use it to its fullest. This means making the yearly maximum contributions toward that account. This is because any amount that is invested in a tax-advantaged account is better than that same amount invested somewhere else, like in your Robinhood account. The reason is pretty simple. You will save money on taxes in one way or another, which means you will have more money invested for the long run. And that's going to make you more money over time due to the beauty of compound interest. Second, even if you have access to a 401k or another employer-sponsored plan, the IRA will allow you to invest more money that's going to get you special tax benefits. Plus, it can also provide diversity to your overall tax strategy, which we'll talk about later. And you'll likely have more investment options with IRAs than you will in your employer-sponsored plans. Okay, so now that you've decided to definitely use an IRA, which option should you pick? Remember that the primary difference between these is going to be when you get the tax break on your invested funds. With the traditional, you get that tax break now, so you'll save more in the long run if you think your taxes are going to be lower in the future. With the Roth, you get that tax break later, so you'll save more in the long run if you think your taxes are going to be higher in the future. Now, of course, figuring out what your tax rate might be in the future is pretty hard to think about. And of course, it's also highly dependent on your specific situation. Plus, the tax code of the future is completely out of your control. In general, taxes really only go up for the most part, and then they also vary state to state. Who knows if this pattern is going to continue into the future or what state you'll be living in when you get to retirement. Before we get into some pros and cons, let me disclose something. I am all in on the Roth IRA, giving my attitudes to what we're going to talk about next. Though I will be presenting unbiased information, I personally think the Roth IRA makes more sense. First, the Roth has more flexible early withdrawal rules, as we've already discussed. Now, you should never want to withdraw money from your retirement accounts early. This is because it's going to cost you a lot more money in the long run by not giving your money as much time as possible for it to grow with that whole compound interest thing we talked about earlier. However, people of course run into some bad situations sometimes, so it's just nice to know that there's more flexibility there in case you're ever in a jam. And of course, you can minimize your chances of ending up in a situation like that by creating an emergency fund which is able to cover 3 to 6 months worth of your expenses. Another benefit of the Roth IRA, it has less restrictions on what you can do with the money in retirement. This is the no minimum distributions thing. As an example, let's say that you have enough money coming in during retirement to support yourself and your family. This means that you can just choose to let your money in your Roth IRA account continue to grow. Plus, if you already have that kind of money coming in when you're in retirement, that means that your tax bracket is likely the same or even higher than it is right now. And if your tax bracket is higher, well, that means you're saving money by using the Roth IRA compared to the traditional one. As a separate psychological benefit, you don't receive the full tax break of the Roth IRA until you are age 59 and a half. This means that you won't be incentivized to spend the money sooner like you could be with a traditional IRA, since it's just going to be taxed like if you spent your regular income. Plus the 10% penalty though if you're dipping into your investment gains. Plus, to get the same amount of after-tax savings as compared to the Roth, you'd also have to invest a traditional IRA's annual tax savings toward your retirement as well. That requires a bit of math and more discipline. Finally, the Roth IRA can give you tax diversification. Most people are going to have a traditional 401k from their employer. Utilizing a Roth means that you can have both a tax-advantaged account with tax-deferred earnings and one with fully tax-free withdrawal. Just like you want to have diversity in your overall investment portfolio, it's beneficial to have diversity in your overall tax-advantaged account strategy, because who really knows what your situation might be in the future, especially a time so long from now like retirement. And just think, the annual contribution limit for a 401k is much higher than one for an IRA. So if you really think that your taxes are going to be higher in the future, then you should really hedge your bets with the Roth IRA. Although you can technically get a Roth 401k. That's just rarer and may require a separate video. So then what even are the benefits of the traditional IRA? Well, it's simpler and more realistic. Now, what do I mean by that? Because the money you invest in the traditional IRA is going to get taxed eventually, there are less rules. There's no your account has to be at least 5 years old thing. If you want to pull out your money early for one of the qualified exceptions, you just can't. But of course, those funds are going to be taxed as ordinary income. Now, what about more realistic? Well, the traditional IRA better suits the common depiction we have of retirement. You save up and invest a little bit here and there, and then your retirement savings and accounts are there to supplement your Social Security income, assuming those are even still around in the future. It would make sense in this depiction that your tax bracket would be lower, and thus the traditional IRA would make more sense because you really wouldn't have much income coming in. And so this is the main reason why I think the Roth IRA is the better option. If you're the type of person who's watching a video about somebody talk about which type of IRA you should have, you're probably also the kind of person who wants to build out various revenue streams, generate passive income, and make businesses so that you've still got that fat income into retirement. I know I do. So if you're investing now so that you can be better off financially, monetarily, and lifestyle-wise in the future, then the Roth IRA makes all the sense in the world. And hey, if you really can't decide, you can actually actually have both a Roth and a traditional IRA. You just can't contribute more than the maximum of the $6,000 or $7,000 per year depending on your age between both accounts. Now with that, make sure to both like this video and subscribe if you'd like to contribute to its success in the YouTube algorithm. Do you have an IRA? Are you opening one now? Is it going to be a Roth or a traditional? Let me know. Comment down below. Click the video on screen to watch another that you're going to enjoy, and then please add some music, a tax-advantaged IRA, or whatever else it is that you love to your day.